An Israeli delegation has arrived in Cairo, Egypt, ahead of peace talks aimed at ending 10 months of war in Gaza. Negotiations are set to resume Saturday. U.S., Egyptian, and Qatari mediators are trying to salvage a deal that would pause the fighting and free the remaining hostages held by Hamas, which, you may remember, committed the October 7th terror attacks in Israel. Meanwhile, Israel has been keeping up its attacks in Gaza. Palestinian health officials say at least 27 people have been killed there in the last day.
Packing up their lives again as Israel issues new evacuation orders. For these Gazans uprooted once more in Khan Yunis, life seems hopeless.
The Israeli army tells us to evacuate from one area to another, and this is our situation in Gaza. There is no hope in the negotiations. Even with Qatar and the Egyptians, there is no hope. Their role is that of mediators, not pressuring Israel. And here we are, the civilians, paying the price.
Palestinian health officials say Israeli attacks have killed dozens more people throughout the Strip in the last day.
The house was blown up, and everyone inside, children, men, women. It's as if the house had never been built. It's like it never existed.
Prayers for any ceasefire to save civilian lives go unanswered. Many Gazans are exhausted by suffering and desperate for an end to the fighting.
I'm begging them to reach an agreement. We're being slaughtered. Israel is fighting for its people, and Hamas is fighting for its people. Enough is enough. They both need to make concessions. Our children are gone. How can we return to our homes without our children?
Both Hamas and Israel accuse the other of blocking any potential truce. Control of Gaza's border with Egypt, an area known as the Philadelphi Corridor, remains a red line for Israel.
The Philadelphi Corridor, the border between Egypt and Israel, the Hamas lifeline of terrorist smuggling, is so crucial. So, reports that the Prime Minister has agreed that Israel will withdraw from the Philadelphi Corridor are incorrect.
Israel says its attacks are the best way to put pressure on Hamas to release hostages taken in the October 7th terrorist attacks. But with Gaza already in ruins and tens of thousands of civilians dead, the Palestinian militant group still hasn't been broken.
DW correspondent Felix Tamsut joins me now from Jerusalem. Felix, what more do we know at this point?
That's an interesting question, because at the moment we were, up until I would say 2 hours ago, we were all under the impression that those talks are not going to take place at all. We've heard reports yesterday saying that the talks are on the brink of collapse, according to US sources. Now, just an hour ago, Israeli media have been reporting that the Israeli negotiations team is currently in Cairo with the idea of negotiating a solution, or finding a solution to some of the core issues. This meeting on Saturday, which many people hold their hopes on, is not yet final. It's not yet sure that it's going to take place, but the Israeli cabinet is to meet tonight, and it's very likely that we will know more after this Israeli cabinet meeting.
We do know that one of the main sticking points in the ceasefire talks has been and remains control over the Gaza-Egypt border that Israel wants to maintain. Is there any update on that tonight?
Indeed, some of the reports coming out in Israel tonight say that the Israeli negotiation team has returned to Egypt, has returned to the negotiations with the mediators with an up-to-date offer when it comes to the Israeli presence in the so-called Philadelphi area on the border between Gaza and Egypt. This corridor is basically at the core of the differences between both sides, whereas where we have Israel wanting wanting to keep their presence there. Israel argues that this is a main lifeline of smuggling goods for Hamas, whereas Hamas insists on no Israeli presence there. The current offer, according to sources in Israel, is that Israel will evacuate its forces only in the second phase of the deal, meaning after 40-something days. It's going to be interesting how this pans out, but it needs to be said, at the moment, we don't know whether Hamas is going to take place. We don't know what Hamas thinks of this offer. And negotiations are in a very, very critical point.
Yeah, you can say that again. DW correspondent Felix Thompson with the latest from Jerusalem. Felix, thank you.